Good morning and welcome to this session. You just saw a clip from a larger film called Imagine It, and you have some materials on your chairs. We wanted to use this as a way to frame the discussion this morning, and the way in which this will run is a little bit informal in the sense that we have pieces where each person will have an opportunity to talk, address some of the concepts suggested in this film, in the film clips, as well as from their own positions. So we have members from national level and state level, and I'll just introduce the other panelists that are here. On my far right, on the end of the table, is Dr. Cora Marrett. She's the acting director at the National Science Foundation and has lots of experience in thinking about how to look at systems and improve from really a national perspective. Next to her is Dr. Christine Royce. She's an associate professor at Shippensburg University here in Pennsylvania. She's here thinking a little bit about from the educator's perspective. Her experience in Shippensburg is to prepare teachers, and she's a director of that program there. And next to her, closest to me, is Carlos Contreras. He's from the Intel Corporation. He's the U.S. Director of Education for the corporation. And you know, Intel is known for innovation. So let me just frame a little further and perhaps help the panelists in their responses with this, the issues that I think are presented to us now in this particular context. And I may do it a little more starkly than perhaps the film, but I think it does bring forth that we have a challenge both from our student perspective and what they would like for the future, and then what's the environment now. If we think about part of what we're doing in traditional education structures right now, we're in this kind of accountability and standards or standardization mode where people need to be sort of driven. So that's sort of one frame. Over here, on this side, we have perhaps another frame, which is this need, and we know because of the issues related to change, of promoting innovation and creativity. And so are we able to, in some fashion, do both, or can we? And I'll just give you one anecdote that struck me, not that it's right or wrong, but just sort of in this paradigm, is last week I was meeting with a group from Central Asia, and they were in D.C., and they often come through and want to learn about what science education is involved with. And so it was India, Pakistan, Nepal, Kazakhstan. I can't remember if there was someone from Cambodia. But in any case, they were asking us about what was going on and so forth, and they said about standards. So we talked about the new revisions of the science education standards, what the process was, and what our strategies and concepts and conceptual frameworks and so forth. And then she stopped, this woman from India, she stopped me and she said, "Why are you doing that?" And I was sort of, well, I did my talk about, well, you know, it's been 10 years and we need to be doing the revisions and so forth. And she said, no, we've been looking to your country because we like what you do now, and we had standards. We all got focused here, and we like this idea of promoting creativity and innovation. And I was sort of taken aback. It's like, huh. So it's not that one is right or wrong, but how do we deal with those issues? And so that's what I wanted to start off with our panel this morning. So I'm going to open it up, and we'll take about 2 to 3 minutes to introduce this, give some reactions. The governor of Eberle is coming at about 10 o'clock, so we'll have to stop at that point, and he'll also address this. He's seen the film. And then we'll go back to questions and answers from the floor. So I'd like to start. Cora, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll first have to make one correction. I'm not the acting director of the National Science Foundation. I'm the acting deputy director. That director would be surprised to know that in one day the change has been made. The topic of this entire discussion is extremely engaging, and I think especially around what was just laid out about what can be the tension between accountability and innovation. But I wanted to start with the accountability issue at another level. We at the National Science Foundation know that we've got to be accountable to the public, because after all, that's where the funding comes from. And that means accountability in two ways: ensuring that the investments that we make are going to be the ones that do move the agenda forward. That requires then constant interaction with all who must be involved. It means the quality of what must be undertaken. So accountability for us is an extremely important matter. It links into the issues of standards, which I won't try to go into now, in the sense that we want to make sure that as we are being accountable, we're doing it in ways that, as I just suggested, would be the kinds of developments and directions that really are going to move everything forward, not leave us just where we have been in the past. But with reference to innovation, we've been extremely pleased. We try to define the National Science Foundation as the organization that is most concerned with innovation, with keeping us on the cutting edge, using science and engineering to make those sorts of advances. And so in the context of accountability and innovation, it seems we must determine ways for combining both, for being accountable, but being accountable can in many instances mean being innovative, making sure that we are addressing the sorts of challenges, moving things in directions that are going to be imperatives for the future. So I'm going to end my comments here, but I do want to end them by recognizing my close colleague and predecessor. He was not the acting deputy director, but he was in fact the deputy director of the National Science Foundation, Dr. Joseph Bordogna. Dr. Bordogna has written extensively on the matter of innovation. He certainly has laid out the issues about accountability and has done this very close to the ground, working here in this area now on matters of how to ensure that our educational system is both accountable and innovative. It is then a matter that has long been on the agenda for the National Science Foundation, and we need the input from all involved to make sure that it never falls off our agenda.
Thank you. I agree that we need to be both accountable and innovative, but from a teacher's perspective, unfortunately, the accountability becomes translated into a set way to teach, and we can't be innovative in that condition in the classrooms. We need to be accountable to our students. We've failed them in the past. We have had students who have graduated without being able to do math or read, and that's just not acceptable in this country. Starting in the 80s with the Carnegie Report and then moving into the standards, we've started to address accountability, but accountability has been now termed as being assessment. And assessment is different than being accountable. We need to consider what the best way to teach our students are, to engage our students in a love of learning and lifelong learning for that point, and continue as we go through to get them interested in topics. Simply presenting vocabulary terms or simply presenting concepts that they must memorize because they will be tested on it at the end of the year does not give us the ability to have them become innovative and future thinkers about what our country needs and what they need as they move towards the future. Kids are naturally curious. They are engaged. They love to ask questions. And unfortunately, throughout time, that innovation and creativity that they have becomes less and less because they see that they're more accountable to the test at the end of the year. We as teachers need to change our way of thinking. Government agencies and departments of education need to change their way of thinking to figure out how to merge that desire to learn while still having accountability for the students.